sort of a hierarchy, if you will, if you'll excuse me for sort of saying that. We got God, we got Christ next, then we have man, then we have woman. That seems to be the hierarchy that the Bible is, quote unquote, saying. God obviously is the head of Christ. Christ is obviously the head of all humankind. Adam was created first, therefore man, and then woman was created from man. It seems logical, it seems right, and it seems to be according to Scripture. Why did God create man? You ever ask that question of yourself? Why did God create man? And what's that? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I like that answer. That, to me, that answers all my questions right there. Why did God make man? He wanted offspring. He wanted somebody to shower his blessings, his love. He wanted to, quote unquote, spoil us, so to speak. Adam and Eve were placed in the Garden of Eden. Utopia. I mean, never want, never hurt, no sickness, nothing, until sin came into the world. Don't we want that for our kids? We bring them up. We want to give them every kind of blessing and opportunity, and we don't ever want to see them hurting. We don't want to see them fail. But we know those things do happen. They're going to get sick. They're going to get hurt. They're going to fail. They're going to stumble. We hope that we train them right so that they come up and learn from it and grow. Right? Isn't that what we're about? So we sort of assume, I guess, that since God, when we're created in His image, we do the same thing with our kids. It makes sense. Man was to be the head of the house, but he's to love his wife as Christ loved the church. Now, what does that mean? Give yourself up for it. Men are supposed to protect their household with their life if need be. Now then, we get down in verse 11 and reading down on to 16. In the Lord, however, woman is not independent of man, nor is man independent of the woman. For as woman came from man, so also man is born of woman. But everything comes from God. Judge for yourself. Is it proper for a woman to pray to God with her head uncovered? Does not the very nature of things teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a disgrace to him? But if a woman has long hair, it is her glory. For long hair is given to her as a covering. If anyone wants to be contentious about this, we have no other practice, nor do the churches of God. Now you know what I'm going to be saying about this. Man is not supposed to have long hair. How long is long? Remember back when we were in school, the hair touched the ears. You were told as a male, you get to the barber. You get your hair cut. It was not allowed to touch the ears and go beyond. We had to go to the barbers. When I was a senior in high school, the dress code changed. That was the first year that they allowed women at school to wear pants outfits. Before it was always, it had to be knee and below dress. We used to have daily prayers in school. I found a lot of them offensive, but I can understand the quote-unquote common good, if you will, from it. But I found them offensive from some of the other denominations. They started doing away with that towards the end of the 60s. What are we doing today? What hope do the kids have anymore? I mean, the laws were passed. You cannot teach religion in school. My first job as a teacher, I taught astronomy. There were currently, at that time, back in the early 70s, 5 theories for the creation of the universe. And I can go through and point out why each one of those theories is wrong, how it leads to examples and things that are contradictory to what scientists believe to be true. And so here I am, I'm teaching a lesson on the creation of the universe, and got all my kids there, and they say, well, wait a minute, there's only 5 theories, and you just disproved all 5. What's true? I'm not allowed to tell you the truth by law. Now, most kids in the school I taught in was a small town in southern Indiana. I would say about a third of the kids carried a Bible with them every day in the early 70s. Weren't allowed to, but they did. That's how much that community believed in the Bible. And I said, well, all you got to do is pick up this book, read the first chapter, and you got all your answers. That's the theory of creation. I couldn't say that. Now, I could do it one-on-one after class, but not in a classroom situation. Sort of strange, isn't it? You can't teach the truth. But what is long hair? Obviously, you know, I don't care about hair. Okay. Ma'am. Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of a cultural thing of the time of which we live in, isn't it? Because I've done the same thing. Hey, ladies, how you doing? Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Then it says, a woman's glory is her long hair. I see a lot of short-haired women here. Now, is that long? Is that short? I mean, am I asking inappropriate questions here? Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, but that's what I was going to say, because in the Bible, long hair. What about Samson then? Yes, and not to cut his hair. What happened when he did? Yes. So we know this example. So is that long hair? Yes, Jerry. Their hair is too short. And so I guess it comes back to what we are a collection of our experiences that we have every single day. And if we're used to certain things, it's like, you know, when I started class, I told you I got southern ears. I hear about 10 to 20 miles an hour. You talk faster than that, and I ignore you because I can't understand a thing you're saying. It hurts. I don't understand it. The words, I only hear 1 every 10 words. And it causes me a great deal of confusion. And I don't mean any disrespect by it, but I just tune you out. I can't. And you know, I'm not trying to say, you know, I'm an old man. I'm only, you know, I'm almost 71. I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up, but whatever it is, I'll do it. But I think a lot of people experience the same thing. There's a frustration level that we all experience. I'm used to talking slowly. My sisters-in-law back in Illinois, they keep telling me, get rid of your flip phone and get a smartphone. You can afford it. It's not that I can't afford it. Why do I need it? Oh, so we can text. If you don't want to talk to me, don't talk to me. I'm not going to text you. I'm sorry. I want to talk to you. I want to know what's going on. I want to get it firsthand. I don't want to get what you're typing to me. Write me a letter if you want. I'll read the letter and I'll write back to you. Does that? Yes, sir. Okay. I can understand that situation. I prefer talking. If you don't want to talk to me, I understand, and no problem with that. I won't talk to you then until you approach. But I'd rather talk with you face to face than I'm not going to be doing this. Does that make sense? Does that seem fair? Back. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. I know it. Yes. No, it's not. Um, just on what you're saying, by the very nature of things. What happens in nature? Uh, it's varied throughout nature, but usually, now stop and think about this for a second, and here I'm sort of digressing. In nature, in like birds, who is the most colorful, male or female? Male. Why do you suppose? Defending of the family unit, so to speak. If you're colorful, you're highly visible. The female is sort of drab, plain. So she blends in with her brood and she can protect them. The male is colorful. Predator comes by, he's going to go after that brightly colored thing, and he will lead them away from the nest, protecting the flock, so to speak. Okay? Other animals the same way. The lion, big, huge mane for the male, but the female real close. The female, that when they're seeing a herd of buffalo or antelope or whatever going by, they look for the very, very young, the very old, the weak, the sick, and they will crouch down and wait for that one to pass by and then leap out and pounce on it. What does the lion do? He just boldly marches right out in the middle of a stampeding herd, and he'll grab anything he can for the food. I mean, we got a lot of examples in nature that does this, so the very nature of things. Why does the woman have to have a covering with long hair on her? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Yes. Why? And then it begs the question, why did the woman have the veil? Yeah. Not quite that. In their culture, that was the authority that she had a husband, so to speak. She had authority over her. She had a male in charge, so to speak. That was a common custom back in those days. The veil symbolized her authority was her husband. Yes. Okay. This right here, I'll tell you the truth. 22 years in the Army, and back in high school, and in the college I went to was a private men's school and engineering school. They had the custom there that no facial growth for any males except seniors. So never in my life could I ever have anything like this up until I got out of the Army. And the day after the Army, that's when I got this. This is my sign of rebellion, if you will. I'm a rebellious person. I resemble that.
Not doing enough, but you are.
Contentious. Okay. So this is my rebellion, if you will. Because I'm never in my life was I able or afforded the opportunity to do it, because in high school, and the kids nowadays, they got beards in school. And tattoos, piercing, torn clothes. I mean, if you got a hole in your jeans, you were sent home. They, yeah. Yes.
Go back to the Old Testament. The way they dressed, the way they ate, they blended the sex very much. God said, that's not going to work for me. Men wear this.
Yes. Yeah.
Very specific. We think a little dance. It wasn't. I'm doing this because I know what. If I don't make a clear delineation, you won't.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. That was something that was done by the women shake their head.
Yeah.
God's people. That's what.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense to me. But the thing is, we have to keep going back and trying to understand a little bit about the culture then. And that's the reason why I was bringing up the examples of what it was like when I was in school, because that was quote-unquote culture then. And the culture we have today is a lot different. We got the admonition in the Old Testament, do not have tattoos. And I sort of assume that means no body piercings. In today's society, body piercings are everywhere. Tattoos. I mean, you see some of the sports people on TV, high school basketball and football. Their arms are tattooed up like nothing. I don't understand it. Why? I mean, I know it's a generation thing. I cannot assume it. I can't take anything on it. Yes. They were the dregs of society at that time. But, you know, it confounds me to see this, and it really upsets me. But what can I say? I can only say what I know, what I believe, and it's wrong. What? I know it. That was Jewish law and tradition. No. But you know, it's like at the end of the 60s, the Jesus people, the Jesus freaks, the hippie movement, whatever you want to call it, everybody was growing their hair long. Obviously, I can't grow hair, but I never could get long hair. If I let mine go for 3 or 4 months, it might cover my ear. I doubt it. But, you know, that's not a big deal. Long hair has never been fashionable to me. But they said, well, the disciples had long hair. And that's the reason why I asked the question, what is long? Long for a male, covering the ear? But see, I go back to Bible examples. Samson, he committed himself to God, not to cut his hair. I can only imagine how long his hair would be. But it sort of says, for long hair is given to her as a covering. If anyone wants to be contentious about this, we have no other practice. But a man has long hair, it is a disgrace to him. So that's the reason why I asked, what is long? Yeah. We have religious orders, denominations. The women never cut their hair, and the hair drags on the ground. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I, yeah. Right. Don't be contentious about it. We're supposed to do everything in love, as we're getting to. Here in chapter 11, when you start getting down to it, verses 17 through 22, usually when we're in our worship assembly, we're talking about reading these verses 23 on about the Lord's Supper, when we have communion, right? But let's take a look at these verses 17 through 22. In the following directives, I have no praise for you, for your meeting do more harm than good. In the first place, I hear that when you come together as a church, there are divisions among you. To some extent, I believe it. No doubt there have to be differences among you to show which of you have God's approval. When you come together, it is not the Lord's Supper you eat, for as you eat, each one of you goes ahead without waiting for anybody else. No one remains, or one remains hungry, another gets drunk. Don't you have homes to eat and drink in? Or do you despise the church of God and humiliate those who have nothing? What shall I say to you? Shall I praise you for this? Certainly not. So it seems like when they came together at Corinth, they had a common meal, a love feast. Now, what does that mean? Well, back in those days, trying to understand the culture then, Sunday, the first day of the week, was not a day of freedom. There was only one day of the week in which everybody was, quote unquote, free from Jewish tradition. That was the Sabbath. So when did these people meet? First day of the week. When? What time? At dinner, probably. After they got off of work. And so what happens when you get off work today? You go home and you eat, don't you? Typically. So these people were doing the same thing. They come to the building where they were meeting, and they would bring their victuals with them to eat. Now imagine the rich folks. They're bringing their steak, potatoes, asparagus, and whatnot, and eating. What about the poor folks? They brought their bologna sandwich, or maybe just a simple piece of bread, if they could afford that much. So Paul's sort of saying right here, some of you come here and eat. And when you do, they're going ahead and starting to eat without waiting for anybody else. Now, that's just like us going over next door to have a meal. You walk in, grab a plate, sit down, and start eating. You're not waiting for anybody else. Is that proper? No. It's not common courtesy for us to do those kind of things. But yet, here's what Corinth was doing. And at very first, in verse 17, I have no praise for you, for your meetings do more harm than good. The rich folks are eating high on the hog. Meanwhile, the poor brother over here has nothing to eat. And he's worked all day long. And he says, don't you have homes to eat and drink in? Why don't you eat there first? Now, we have a lot in our brotherhood that sit there and say, we should not eat in this building. Is there anything to preclude us from having a meal in here? Yeah. No, there's nothing prohibiting us. We could do it now, except for the mess. You spill a drink or you spill a plate, and the cleanup's going to be a little bad. There you go. That's the whole key right there. Are we doing it to glorify God? If we are, great, then we should do it. If it doesn't glorify God, why are we doing it? But could we eat in here? Yes, we could. But a lot of people are binding things that aren't in the Bible for us to bind. They're saying we should not eat in our building. So we got a separate building where we can go to eat. Oh, I know. Now, what happens if we go over there and we're eating steak and potatoes? They can't afford it. Yes. I mean, it's hard for us to sit there and take a look. There are always going to be rich in the brotherhood. There's going to be poor in the brotherhood. We are not to lord it over one another. And when we do that, we are doing things that are wrong and contrary to what Paul and all the apostles told us. Because starting in 23, which is very familiar to all of us, For I received from the Lord what I also passed on to you. The Lord Jesus, on the night he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me. In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me. Whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death till he comes. We hear that all the time, don't we? Do this in remembrance of me. And that's what we do. Now, I would maintain to you, if we're going to sit here and try to use Bible verses, after the Passover meal, Jesus took the bread and blessed it and said, Do this in remembrance of me. And then he took the cup. Now, shouldn't we have a meal before we partake of the Lord's Supper? You see how I can apply that way? Pardon? Well, this is what the Corinthians were doing. And I guess they were trying to emulate the Passover meal, quote unquote, and then having the Lord's Supper. But what was happening is in the Passover meal, they were eating and drinking excessively and forsaking others. So, where and what? I mean, I can understand some in the Brotherhood saying we should have no meals in here. I can understand that. I disagree with that. I say we can. There's no prohibition for it. But at the same time, if I see a brother or sister loading up a plate huge, meanwhile another brother or sister is only getting a little tiny bit, that's an inequity I can't stand. And don't we have a tendency to do those kind of things? First person through the line gets all the shrimp. Well, I'd be sitting there saying, we all go over for a meal, and then I come back and say, boy, William, wasn't that shrimp good and that lobster? Huh? Where? Or the fried chicken even. Propriety, courtesy, love for one another. That's what we should be about. We should be waiting on each other. But we're worried about our own little bellies, right? Doesn't that happen? Well, it's sort of funny that he's admonishing them. He's saying he has no praise for them, and that he gives these verses right here, do this in remembrance of me. And then he concludes the chapter. Therefore, whoever eats the bread or drinks the cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty of sinning against the body and blood of the Lord. A man ought to examine himself before he eats of the bread and drinks of the cup. For anyone who eats and drinks without recognizing the body of the Lord eats and drinks judgment on himself. That is why many among you are weak and sick, and a number of you have fallen asleep. But if we judged ourselves, we would not come under judgment. When we are judged by the Lord, we are being disciplined so that we will not be condemned with the world. So then, my brothers, when you come together to eat, wait for each other. If anyone is hungry, he should eat at home, so that when you meet together, it may not result in judgment. And when I come, I'll give you further direction. So it sort of says that this idea of having a common meal before worship assembly and then having the Lord's Supper is that tradition, that custom is to stop. Does that make sense? So that's the reason why we don't do it. But we could do it, couldn't we? Some say we shouldn't have meals in the buildings. Some say we should have one loaf. Some say we should have one cup. They're overlooking what is the main focus, the content. That's it. We wait until everybody's ready, then we pass it out. Now, I'm going to ask the question that seems sort of silly, but it sort of begs the question. When we pass out the bread and we take our pinch off and pass it on to somebody else, do we wait for everybody? And I have been to one or two where everybody sits there with their pinch and they wait until everybody has been served, then everybody does it at once. It seems ceremonial. I agree. Should we have to wait? It's not a common meal. This is the Lord's Supper. This is between you and the Lord. You're doing this in remembrance of Him. To swallow? That sort of begs that question, doesn't it? There you go. Oh, yes. Yeah, if you got a cold and you're getting that cup before me, I ain't taking. I'm sorry. Health benefits. Yes. Mine first. I've seen that with here 10, 15 years ago. Well, let's talk about that in an indirect way, but in a direct way. How many song leaders do we have here in the congregation? We've got several. Why don't the men come forward and lead singing? I don't know how to read music, but I'm not scared of it. I just don't prefer it. Why don't somebody else volunteer to stand up here when Chuck's gone to preach a sermon? You ever get up here? Now, I'm a little big. When I get up here, you notice this stuff's down here, and it's hard for me to get up there because I'm going to stumble and I'm going to fall. We're afraid of embarrassment. I get up there. I stand up there. Okay, I'm going to do the Lord's Supper. The heart is really racing. The mind is racing. I know what I want to say and do. So what do? Fruit of the vine. Let's bless the cup. And then I do the bread. Is that what happened? Probably. In all likelihood, most men are scared and embarrassed to try to do something. It's scary and embarrassing to stand up here and talk to you right now. Why do some people do it? Why don't more people do it? Begs the question, doesn't it? No, it hasn't. Mm-hmm. Yes, and you were going to say something. It's scary. There is a certain amount of fear you cannot get over, but you do it. It's just like you're at work. There's things at work you hate, but you go and you do it. Why don't we do it here in the church? No. I think we're well. The whole thing is, I think we're embarrassed, we're ashamed, and all these other words that we could use. We're intimidated by the situation. If for me to stand up here and try to teach or talk or lead a prayer or lead singing, it's embarrassing because I will say a word that isn't there. Do the people forgive you for that? Yes, they do. But not us. We don't forgive ourselves. No. But we don't think that. Well, I've never been a scared to get up in front of a group of people and talk. I can do it. If I make a fool of myself, well, that's the way it is. I can't help it. I can try to correct it. I remember when I was back in St. Louis, stationed there. The church there, the preacher was going to be gone, and that was the first sermon I ever preached. And I walked right up here like this, and as soon as I did this, the thought that was in my mind, I hope I don't say something that leads a brother or sister astray. That is the one thought in all of the world you don't want, isn't it, Chuck? You don't want that when you're stepping up to get ready to deliver a sermon. It scared me silly that I was responsible, that everybody was listening to me, I'm leading them astray. And that still bothers me today. I don't want to lead you astray. That's the reason why you hear me coach my words. And does that seem honest? Does that seem fair? Does that seem to be what the Bible is saying? I'm trying to get you to think about it. Not what I'm saying, but what the Bible is saying. If you accept that, great. We're all on the same page. But if you think I'm going to tell you something that you don't know already, probably not. I'm just trying to get you to think about it a little different, if you will. And I know my time is up. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. I just want you to think about some of these things and see if it does not make sense to you.